What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Atlanta United in Europe on our Dirty South Soccer Football Manager save, where we are finally past the World Cup and back into our normal schedule. And we will get caught up in that in a second. Just wanted to talk about what we're going to do today in this episode. We're going to do a doubleheader. We have games against Manchester United and Arsenal. And in between those two games, we have the end of the transfer window. So we'll be going through all of that. It might be a little bit longer of a video this time just because there's a lot to catch up on, a lot to do in this episode. So speaking of catching up, let's take a look at what's been going on since we got back from the World Cup. It's actually been a pretty good run. We scheduled some friendly games during this time just to kind of keep us sharp, and we've been doing well, actually. We got knocked out of the Carabao Cup, which was unfortunate, but at least I think that we surpassed the board's expectations for us there, so that's always good. And then look at all the wins. Win versus Chelsea, which was huge. Joseph Martinez got us a win, extra time goal to get us the 3 points in that one. That was awesome. That was a fun one for me to play. And as you can see, our defensive record is pretty good. Lots of shutouts, lots of 1 goals. Even against Man City in the league on the road, only a 1-0 loss. So not terrible there. We'll hope to get at least one result against Manchester United or Arsenal. If we look at the Premier League right now, you can see it's the top 6 are just filling up those top 6 spots. In the past, like last year, I think Tottenham was really struggling. Some teams were not doing as well. Chelsea, we were actually battling it out for the 7th spot to get into Europa, but now all of those teams are kind of head and shoulders above everybody else. Interesting. I see Everton's dropped down a little bit. They had kind of been manning that 7th spot all season, and they're a very talented team. But we're right back in the thick of it. Last time we had a video, we were kind of languishing down here, 13th, 14th, in the table, but this current run we've been on has been quite good for us, so exciting. And it's January 26th, as you can see, but we actually have made some moves in the transfer window already, which I will catch you guys up on. We basically made one big move, and there's kind of a story behind it. We picked up Alex Twanzebe Axel Twanzebe from Manchester United. A couple reasons. We needed a center back at the time. We needed a center back, and I'll explain that in a second. And he's trained in England, so good for squad registration. And he's a pretty good player, or definitely the best center back that we had scouted that was, relatively affordable. He was actually transfer listed by Manchester United because he wasn't really getting in the team there, and only cost us £15.5 million. As you can see, he didn't really get that much playing time with Manchester United, but has a lot of experience, just playing in that squad, and actually got several appearances and had a pretty good average rating for a couple years ago. So hopefully he will step in for us and be a player that kind of holds down a center back spot for a long time. He might be playing in a back 3. Obviously, we have 2 really, really good center backs in Jean Lukumi and what's the other guy's name? Ibrahima Konate, but Konate's actually been hurt. He's been out for like 3 months with a really bad ankle injury, so we've been playing Cedric Kibre, and that's the reason why I actually bought Twanzebe, is because Brighton came in for Kibre earlier in the transfer window, and I think they made like a £20 million bid, and it was like 14 million up front, and the rest in add-ons. And honestly, I probably would have taken it. It's right at his value, but I said, okay, give me the 20 million up front plus the add-on. So I think it came to 28 million total, and I just made that offer just to see if they would accept it, and they accepted it. So I was like, okay, now I was in a rush to grab a new center back in the middle of the season, even though Kibre had actually been playing very well. So the reason I'm actually just okay with getting rid of Kibre if we get a good bid for him is these mental attributes. As you can see, he just doesn't, not great there. Not great for, high quality center back. So even though he's performed very well for us this year, and I can't fault any of his performances. But anyway, we were going to lose him, so we had to go out. We did the deal for Twanzebe, and if you play this game, do not do what I did, which was when we had agreed the deal and the contract with Twanzebe, the Kibre deal had not been finalized yet. They hadn't. All I knew was I accepted a deal, but I hadn't, I didn't know if they had sorted out a contract or anything, so but I just kind of assumed that they would. So I accepted the Twanzebe deal. What I should have done is delay the deal until Kibre signed with Brighton. because as you can see, Kiepré is still on the team. That deal fell through, and then all of a sudden I had both Tuanzebe and Kiepré. So not the end of the world. I probably won't play Tuanzebe as much as I initially thought I would this year. I'm still going to play Kiepré because I want to keep his value up and make sure that we can probably try to get rid of him potentially later this window. Who knows if somebody comes in for him, but definitely probably next offseason will be the time that he leaves us. But don't do what I did. It's not the end of the world because we were going to always need a center back to replace him anyway. I've kind of been thinking that he may be on the outs for us eventually, but that's what happened there. So it kind of interesting thing. We did get a bit of a budget injection from the board. As you can see, we still, after doing the 15.5 million pound deal for Tuanzebe, we still have 11 and change left. I think the board injected about 11 million or so into us. And then also we were able to actually dispose of some players and get some transfer fees in that are players that we've been wanting to move. So João Carvalho is a guy. We moved him to Fulham for 8.25 million up front that could raise to almost 10 million with appearances and stuff. And then we also got rid of Yuri Medeiros, who at 5.75 million, decent little profit for us there. His value at some point was up around like 15 million or maybe even 20 million when he was kind of in his best form for us, but I think that was inflated. I'm not sure exactly how the values are actually determined for these players in the game, but we tried to sell him back then when it was at his highest and we just didn't really get any bidders. So I'm just happy to get any kind of money for him. He's, I think, 29 years old. So good to just, get some money for him. He's 28. Okay. He was never going to really play for us much anyway. And last time we talked, speaking of transfers, I'd been mentioning that I wanted to bring in a player who was a real good defensive midfielder who could sit in front of the back four and really protect us because we've been leaking a lot of goals. Well, as you can see, when we were taking a look at the schedule, we've really shored up the defense, but the player I've been using in that role is not a new player. It's Eric Bamba, a guy that we signed right when we started the save for £200,000. And it was kind of a punt. Like, we didn't even have him fully scouted. We couldn't see because we didn't have the resources to go into Ivory Coast and scout him at his club. But I just knew he was a regen or a new gen, and he had already, I think, been... I don't remember if he had been capped for the senior team or if it was just the youth team, but kind of figured he was probably a decent player, and you always love it in this game when they do turn out to be good players. He still has, like, if you look at his teamwork and work rate, those are two vital areas for what we want him to play as this ball-winning midfielder, and not very great attributes there, and that's why I've kind of been hesitant to play him. But I gotta say, just watching the highlights of the games, he looks fantastic. The thing I noticed with him as compared to Jonathan Gonzalez, who's really the player he's kind of replaced in our side, is that Bamba passes the ball very quickly. He never sticks on his feet. Like, I feel like Jonathan Gonzalez can kind of dwell on the ball a little bit, and it's got to come down to the passing attribute, I think, because neither of them have a certain player trait that would suggest that because there is a dwell on the ball player trait, neither of them have it, and also Bamba does not likes to play 1-2s, which also could indicate that he likes to play the ball a little quicker. But if you look at the passing attributes, Jonathan Gonzalez is a 9, and Eric Bamba is a 17. And so I think that is the big difference for us, and it's been working out fantastic. Bamba's been terrific. His value's gone up a little bit. I actually thought it would be more than 4 million by now because he's actually made seven appearances. Yeah, just couldn't be more pleased with him, and he's kind of basically allowed us to free up some transfer budget to go out and spend on some kind of youth project players because I'm not really looking for that position anymore, which is kind of nice. Probably still will look at adding someone in that position in the off season after this season. Obviously, it depends on kind of how the squad is shaping up, but yeah, interesting little note there. Okay, we have a development here before we get to the Manchester United game. Bristol City have come in for £9 million for Xavier Amici, who's a player that we've actually been playing a lot more this year on the right-hand side. I kind of talked about that when we started up this season. I kind of decided that he was going to kind of finally get his chance in our squad after not really making many appearances over the first couple of years. So, what do I do here? Because he actually has been playing quite a bit for us. It would kind of clear up a spot for Ezequiel Barco, because he's kind of the player I've been rotating in with Amici on that right-hand side. Tough one. I kind of would like to cash in on it, if I could. Is Bristol City in the Premier League? Or are they still in the Championship? They are in the Premier League. So they probably have some money to spend. I mean, I'm not going to take this deal. I'm just wondering if I should up the amount. Of course, if I up the amount, there's a good chance that they could accept it, and then I'm in a world of worry. See, if we look at Amici, though, the thing is he has not really gotten any better than he has been. I mean, he's been a decent performer for us, but he's not like he's improving, and I don't think he's going to really improve based on the player that he currently is. If we look at his current ability, his potential ability is a full star better than what it is, but I feel like if he were actually on the track to reach that potential, he would have been improving in his progress report, and he just really hasn't. I mean, long shots have gotten a little bit better, that kind of thing, but for the most part, a lot of the core abilities that he needs have kind of stayed pretty stagnant. Here's his overall progression. Those were all the individual attributes, and his overall progression, he actually looks like he got a little bit better and then has been deteriorating a bit since. He was up to a 3-star player at one point, now he's 2.5. I'm going to try to up this bid. I think I'm willing to accept a deal for him. But I'm going to negotiate it. I wonder if they'll do... I'm going to double it and see if they'll do this. They're not moving much. They're not moving a ton. They upped this by $250,000, and I don't care about the percentage of profit on the next sale, so remove that. Let's randomly pick this much. Okay, so they made a final offer here now. I don't think I want to take this, because I think that if we continue to play him, which we will the second half of the season, he may not get better, but at least he'll accumulate more stats, more goals, more assists, that kind of thing, which will boost his stock. I'm trying to look. He's got 2 years left on his deal at the end of this season, which is kind of the perfect time to sell him. So I am not going to take this deal. I don't think it's enough for him. I don't think it's enough for him, considering the fact that we'd have to try to replace him, and it would kind of weaken us on the wings. Gonna reject this offer, and I hope I don't regret it. Alright, here is the formation that we were going to use against Manchester United. As you can see, we've changed it up a little bit. We now play a single pivot here with Amadou Diawara playing as a deep-lying playmaker in the defensive midfield role. Again, he's kind of sitting in that position as the guy who's sitting in front of the back four. As a deep-lying playmaker, that's not really it's not really a role where he's going to be mobile, roaming around. He's going to sit right here. Meanwhile, we've got Eric Bamba, who will be kind of doing a lot of like sweeping up and trying to venture around and make tackles with a playmaker next to him. So this is kind of what we've been going with. Should note, Ibrahim Konate is nearly back in action. Looks like he'll be returning to full training tomorrow. Tuanzebe actually just picked up an injury in the meantime between cuts here, so he's going to... Actually, I could put him on the bench for this game. We'll put him in for Escobar. Escobar actually looks like he will be leaving us at the end of this season. Not something I wanted to happen, but he came to me saying that he was not going to be able to get a work permit with his next contract, and so I just had to say, like, okay. And now if I try to get him on a new contract, it won't even let me. He's not even interested in talking about it, so that's kind of unfortunate. I probably could change it in the editor. Interestingly enough, it did come through that he is now a U.S. citizen, and it said the reason he wanted to get his citizenship is because he thinks he's good enough to play for the U.S. men's national team. So that'll be interesting if he ends up making a cap for them. It still says he's Argentine here, but it will change to American if he does end up making a cap for them. So that's interesting. And then George Bello also out injured in this game. He's actually gotten injured quite a bit this season. It's kind of the first year where he's had the injury bug, which I was always worried he would have, just based on his real-life injury history. Looks like that's finally coming around this year, but so we won't be able to use him for this game, but hopefully this one's not a big one, just took a knock in training, so hopefully he'll be back for the Arsenal game. But this is the team we're going to go with against Manchester United. All right, and we have kickoff against Manchester United. Let's cross our fingers and hope something goes well. Butland has gotten better. I was giving him a lot of crap, I think, in the last video, but he actually has improved in this recent spell, hasn't been making the mistakes. It's the egregious mistakes that really drive me nuts, more so than the saves or whatever. It's like when he kicks the ball right to an opposing player and they go in and score. So frustrating, but that has not happened recently, which is nice. Can we defend here, Dybala? Okay, good. A little concerning. They've been getting the majority of the chances so far, but oh, there it is on the corner. A lot of set-piece goals we've conceded this year. There's another one. Though I can't say it hasn't been deserved for Manchester United. They have kind of been the dominant team in the game so far. All right, we got a highlight. Hopefully it's for us, because nothing has happened for us in this half. Okay, a shot on target at least. A little half chance there. I'll take that. I'm thinking I might change up the formation, though, at halftime, because really not much has happened for us in this game so far. Diawara to Bamba. Bamba, really nice pass out to Walker-Peters. Can we make something happen here? Amici? Okay, there's halftime. Do I make a change here is the question. I think the question is not so much do I put on a sub right now, it's do I just go to a more aggressive formation where I'm playing with the double pivot, Diawara and Bamba in midfield with Eric Ramirez playing in behind the striker. I think I might do that. Let's try this and see how it works. Oh boy, Frankie de Jong, there it is. 2-0. Not good. I feel like we've been better on the road almost this year than at home. That's unfortunate. All right, now we got to make some subs. Let's see, what can we do here? Let's bring on Barco for Amici. Ooh, I should not have been playing Amici as a winger there. Should have been playing him as an inverted winger since he is left-footed. And I'll probably I guess I'll just put on Shaparenko for Ramirez. I guess. Barco swinging it in. Holland? Well, it's not going to happen for us in this game, unfortunately. Is United going to make it 3? Ooh. Well, that was a blah game that I'd rather just forget. All right, and the transfer window is finally wrapped up here. As you can see, look at this. Most active, Atlanta United. We bought 7 players, y'all, although only one of them you already knew about. He's the only one who's really going to make any sort of impact this season, which is Axel Tuanzebe, if I can say the name right. But we kind of have a recruiting class of like young 18, 17-year-old players who have come into the club and who can hopefully be kind of a bedrock for us down the road. I always love getting in young players for like $5 million or less, and just forgetting about them. Store them in the cupboard, let them marinate for a while, and then hopefully they pop out of the oven later and become good players. But let's go through them right now. Okay, the first guy actually I need to talk about is a guy who we actually already had signed, which the computer did for me, or not the computer, but like my backroom staff or whatever went out and found this young player, Romain Mundel. I guess he came from Tottenham. Know nothing about him, so I'm not really going to talk about him. But just so the maths add up, we did sign this guy. All right, the first player I'm going to talk about is Zebenzui Santana. I might just change his name to just Santana, so I don't have to say that first name. We'll see if he becomes good or not, but we got him from Tenerife in Spain, 17-year-old. The reason you'll see I've gone for mostly 17-year-old age players or less is because for squad registration, players need to have been trained at the club or in the nation for 3 full years before they turn 21. So the only way you can do that is buying players who are 17 years old or younger. If they're already 18, they're not going to complete that full 3 years by the time they turn 21. So that's the reason for this, and looks like a pretty well-rounded player for only £675,000. I mean, like that is pretty good money. Who knows if he's going to turn out or not? The things I like to look for in these young players is, as far as reaching their potential is concerned, is determination's a big one, and natural fitness is a big one. This guy obviously doesn't have super high ratings in either of those, but they're not terrible. And a lot of his technical attributes are actually already very good. His technique's already a 16. Vision is already a 16. That's not something that I think that really progresses a ton over time with a lot of players. So it's good to see him already have that technique and vision. If he can improve his passing a little bit, he could be a really nice playmaker for us down the line. Next guy is Aurélien Renard, as a Belgium player we bought for £1 million. A lot of these guys I'm going to go through they're not fully formed players. You know, they're not well-rounded. Typically, they're incomplete. They're teenagers. You know, they're just kids we're hoping will pan out and be a success. And if not, maybe we'll be able to get our monies back down the line. But we're just stashing these guys away. So here's a guy. You don't find many 16-year-olds who have this much pace, so hopefully he can actually build on this a little bit more. That's always a good physical foundation to build on. And yeah, I mean, nothing special about this guy. He's just a pretty natural winger on the right-hand side. Got really good dribbling technique, and hopefully he can get that crossing up. But he's pretty much straightforward. Also, it's good to have wingers have a lot of flair as well, even though it's not one of their... Flair is an attribute that is always going to help any player that's in the attacking band that you want to have, so that's always good to see as well. All right, getting into some more of the expensive players that we signed. This is probably the best of the bunch in terms of his current ability right now that we signed. In fact, we already had a team immediately after we signed him come in and tried to get him on loan. Grimsby Town tried to get him, but I thought about it. They wanted to make him an important player, which is good. He would have been playing every game, but I just want him to get familiar with, you know, his teammates in the youth setup and the coaches and all that stuff. And we have a really good coaching staff, much better than he would get at Grimsby, and our youth facilities are amazing. So really, really good looking player here. I'm a little worried about his natural fitness is only a 10. Hopefully he doesn't suffer a ton of injuries, because that can really stunt development. That's why it's important. But determination's pretty good. A lot of his mentals are very good. His teamwork and vision, technique, you know, some really good attributes here. And again, has the pace already. Always like to see that. So hopefully this guy, I've got really high hopes for him. We bought him for, what, £3.5 million? Yeah, £3.5 million from Ream. All right, 2 more to go. This is Istvan Gulyas from Hungary. Got him for £2.5 million. He's a false 9, which is interesting. That's his primary role. Has some really interesting attributes here, but what I loved about him was the 20 determination. The 20 determination is huge, and pretty good natural fitness at 14. He's quick, he's agile. I think this guy could really develop into something really, really good. He needs to work on his vision and his passing. Those are the 2 big ones. But you can see the building blocks are there for this guy, and with 15 technique to build on, technique is just probably the most important attribute for any attacking player. That isn't like anybody who's going to have the ball at their feet quite a bit, which as a false 9 he would. We could develop him into more of like an attacking midfielder, but I feel like a false 9 is kind of a cool role to have for a player in the team, and it's definitely it's a role that can be really, really effective if used correctly in the right tactic, and I would love to kind of try to experiment with that if we can in due time. So if this guy develops, I think we'll have a lot of fun with him. And last but certainly not least is Stefano Abbas. We bought him for £3.1 million, so one of the bigger spends of this kind of crop of players that we brought in. Really good physical attributes, and I love the 18 natural fitness. That's huge for him. Also love 15 decision making for an 18-year-old. Really, really good. I think this guy has the building blocks to be very similar to what Eric Bamba is for us right now. I think he's going to be a really good ball-winning midfielder at the very least, but I think he has potentially could develop into, you know, this deep line playmaker. He's got the mental attributes for it, as we can see. His composure could use a little bit of work, and also just his passing and technique could use a little bit of work as well. But I think he's got tons of potential to grow into some useful position in midfield. I don't know exactly what that will be at this current time, but I think that this guy will almost certainly develop into a really, really nice player for us. So that's it. Taking a look at our overall transfer history from the beginning of this season. As you can see, we only started out with a few signings in that first window, but we really expanded a lot in the time since, and spent quite a bit. Total of £91 million. Only sold players for $47 million. I should mention that during the transfer window, Tottenham came in for Jack Butland for £10.5 million, which was a deal I probably would have done if that offer had come through, you know, a week before, and I could get a replacement for him. I just didn't have enough time. There was like 6 hours left in the window, so there was no way I was going to sell my #1 goalkeeper and just leave myself exposed like that. So I rejected the bid. Then Butland came and was like angry that I rejected it, saying it would have been a big pay increase for him. So we came to an agreement that I would sell him after this season, and that in the meantime I just needed to find out a replacement for him. So that's kind of nice, because I was planning on doing that anyway, with how much he's frustrated me this year. So Jack Butland will be out of the team next season, but at least we have him for now, and hopefully, you know, if we can get like a Europa League spot, which is still obviously our goal, I think that the value for him will be quite high, and we can get a nice little profit out of that. All right, here's what we're going to go with against Arsenal. Pretty much the same team we just used against Manchester United, except we've put in Michaelis Shaparenko in for Eric Ramirez. I just got a note saying Shaparenko was in really good form and deserved a call-up for Ukraine, so I figure might as well stick him in there. Other than that, we're going to stick with the same lineup. I thought about potentially putting in Barco for Xavier Amici, but Amici's just been in better form in general, even though nothing really happened in that last game. So we're going to go with this for now. Barco has been, it's disappointing. You know, he was our player of the year last year and just has not found his form at all this year. Maybe he'll have a turnaround in the second half, and I felt like last year in the second half he really did put up his best performances. So hopefully we can see a repeat of that. But for now, I'm going to go with Amici. All right, and we have kickoff against Arsenal. Hopefully we can do a little bit better on the road than we did at home. Maybe it's the kits. Maybe we like the King Peach kits. I could probably change the color scheme to do white and gold. Might be a little hard to see, though, is the only thing. Holland. Ooh, nice. Shaparenko put that ball in for him, though. I think we may have made the right call putting him in the starting lineup today. All right, working it out well. Was he onside? Was Holland onside? He was, but he did not keep the ball. Are Arsenal going to punish us here? Over the top to Tammy Abraham, who scores. Was he onside? Oh, I don't know if he was. The ref go back to run. No. Looks like they're giving it to him. I saw the lino kind of run back, but sometimes he just runs back to his regular starting spot, which is what that was. Any points we pick up off these teams, these top 6 teams, is just icing on the cake, because the quality of players they have is just so much better than ours. And there's 2-0. Hector Bellerin with his 4th goal of the season. A rocket, first time. Cool. Okay, Jack Butland. Don't do anything stupid. Ooh, nice. Finds Braff. Can Braff make something happen? Shaparenko. Still Shaparenko to Holland. Let's put on Barco for Amici for now. Play him as a winger. And we'll probably tentatively plan on putting in Joseph around the 60th minute for Braff, unless things change. I know Barco, we don't associate him with being a winger, but in this game, it's one of his most natural spots, and his attributes are pretty good for it. He's not fast, is the only thing, but other than that, his attributes fit the winging spot quite nicely. And there's a penalty. About to be 3-0. Awesome. Tammy Abraham slots it home. Pass Butland. It's all going tits up here. Let's put on Joseph, just so maybe something good could happen in the world. Unfortunately, David Junka does not have a good rating in this one either. George Bello was not able to make it back for this game, of course, or we would be playing him. Hit over the top again. Abraham. They're exposing us with that long direct ball over the top. Is there any... Let's demand more from the team, and we can probably just make one more change here. I guess we'll go with Ramirez in for Shaparenko. Oh my goodness. Terrible. Nice recovery from keeper there. Oh, and Junka's going to give it right back. Oof. This has not been good. Well, that was a disaster. 2 disasters, actually. But in between those 2 disasters, I think we had a pretty nice transfer window. Oh, shoot. I should not have let him say that we appreciated their efforts there, because we did not do that. Oh my gosh, things are going badly. Okay, well, we will see you guys in the next episode. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better. We might have to have a Taco Tuesday team bonding session after those 2 terrible results. So we're going to go do that. We're going to go eat some tacos and find out more about each other. And until then, we will see you guys next time, sometime probably in March-ish of this save. Sometime in the spring before the season ends. We'll see you guys. We'll check in and see where we are in our quest to get to the Europa League. And until then, we will see you guys in the next episode.